Hi, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of People in the News in North Texas. My guest today is Louisville resident and candidate for Constable in Precinct 3, Dan Rochelle, who will be on the primary ballot in March for the Republican nomination. Thanks for being here, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Dan, what should our viewers know about your background?
I currently serve as a captain at the Louisville Police Department. I've been there for 28 years. 28 of those years, or 22 of those years, I've been a supervisor, from sergeant to lieutenant to captain. I've done a little bit of everything there, whether as an officer or as a sergeant or lieutenant, and now as a captain, I've supervised just about every unit that we have, and I have a well-rounded experience. I have a college degree in emergency administration and disaster planning from UNT. Prior to that, I went to what used to be called Cook County. Now it's called North Central Texas College. I had an associate's degree in criminal justice. And of course, like a lot of police officers, I have all my continuing education for TCO license. I have over 3,200 hours of continuing education.
By the way, how are promotions achieved? Is it a test, something like a civil service type test or something like that?
Similar. We're not civil service at Louisville. In my department, for sergeant, there's assessment centers, and an outside board selected candidates for that. Same for lieutenant, we had an assessment center, but then an inside board made up of supervisors selected lieutenants. And then for captain, at that time, I was appointed. At that time, Chief Russ Curbo was my chief, and he appointed me as captain.
Yeah. All right. Tell our viewers, what are the duties of a constable?
The constable's job is mostly civil process. They are mostly serving civil papers such as divorces, lawsuits, and a lot of evictions. You know, Precinct 3 office served over 2,000 eviction notices last year.
And also for informational purposes, what area does Precinct 3 cover?
Precinct 3 is Louisville, Highland Village, and Copper Canyon, and then a very small portion of Capel. There's just a few streets in Capel that are actually in Precinct 3.
Does it cover all of Louisville?
Yes, sir. Now, it doesn't cover Castle Hills, which some people consider Louisville, but that is not a part of Louisville yet.
I see. Okay. That's a large area.
Yes, sir.
How about this? What's the difference between a constable and a police officer?
They're both peace officers.
Uh-huh.
The main difference between constables and their staff is they're out serving that civil process. Eviction notices, divorce paperwork, lawsuits, subpoenas, protection orders that come down from the district courts, anything like that that gets sent out from the court to have served.
But if they're out there while they're on a civil serving assignment and they see a crime, they're peace officers, so they would take action.
They should absolutely take action, yes,
right.
Sir.
And they carry guns.
Yes, sir.
They can also issue traffic tickets, right?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay, so there's a multitude of duties that they have.
Oh, absolutely. They are still peace officers and should carry out those duties.
And they're out there in uniform with marked vehicles, so they're a police presence as well as the local police cars and stuff like that.
Yes,
so
sir.
It's always good to have more police presence than less.
It is a deterrent. A lot of people don't realize it. Just a police car being there.
Absolutely. If you've ever been in a situation where you think you might be in danger, there's no better sight than a police car or a patrolman walking along the street. That makes everybody feel better.
Right.
Let's get into some of the issues like, is human sex trafficking a serious problem in North Texas?
I believe it is. Human trafficking is taken on a large, it encompasses a lot of things. Human trafficking can be overseas, people brought into the country to do things, but it's also runaways. What's always been is runaways. They run away from home and they get involved in sex trafficking or they get involved in drugs, and so human trafficking is taking on this large thing, and it's a problem all the way across the board.
Yeah. How about your view on the Second Amendment?
I believe you should have the right to keep and bear arms. The government shouldn't infringe upon that.
And are you familiar with red flag laws, and do you believe in them?
I do, and that's a struggle. I know the sheriff mentioned last week there was some discussion about that in the forum that he was at. We do have an issue in this country with mental health crisis, and how exactly we decide and who decides who's in mental health crisis and who shouldn't have a gun is a tricky thing, and I'm not sure how to address that fully, but there needs to be a way where if somebody is not in their right mind, that they don't need to be running around with a firearm.
Yeah, and the difficulty is, how do you figure that out? I mean, if a neighbor
Exactly.
says that about somebody, they can be tainted with that now, because a neighbor had an argument with them and says, I know that they have guns in the home. Well, it's legal to have the guns, but if you have an argument with a neighbor and doesn't like you, the neighbor can turn you in, and all of a sudden you're facing appropriation of your property. So I think it can be really difficult to enforce that properly and be fair. I don't know how that would work.
I don't either. It is a problem, though. I agree.
So we already established constables do perform regular patrol in neighborhoods, right?
They do. I absolutely believe that while they're out serving, because their main job is to go out and serve civil paper, and
Yeah.
while they're out, they need to have their eyes open, just like any other police officer does.
Yeah. How many deputy constables would there be in a given?
It's my understanding right now that there's the constable, a chief deputy constable, and 4 deputies in that office.
Okay, and do they all have an auto assigned to them?
As far as I know, yes, sir.
Yeah. So that would be that many additional vehicles out there that establish a police presence.
Oh, absolutely.
How about this? If a constable and a city officer arrive at the scene of a crime, let's say at the same time, who's in charge?
Are we in the city or in the county?
Well, a city within the county.
Okay, if we're in that officer city, I believe that officer in charge, and the constable and or the deputy is there to back them up and let them in, because they have the jurisdiction in that city to handle those cases.
Okay, yeah.
Could the constable let's say the constable got there first, I'm sure they would take it over and handle it. But at some point, the city police officer usually comes in and takes care of business in that city.
Yeah. So the responsibility would be more on the city police officer than, let's say, a constable or even a sheriff. If a sheriff's deputy arrived, it would be the same situation.
Yes, sir, I
pretty
believe
much. By the way, have you ever run for political office before?
No, sir, I have not.
How do you like it so far?
It's been an educational experience. You know, things you think you knew, you had no idea. So
You find things about yourself you didn't even know.
right, it's that's right. It's tiring. You get tired at the end of the day.
Yeah, because people are saying things about you. You say, I didn't know that about me. How did that happen? Where did they get that from?
So far, I haven't heard a whole lot of hateful things said about me. So that's
Yeah,
I'm
well,
going to.
well, you probably have a very civil campaign going with your opponent.
I believe we do. Yes, sir.
And it's too bad they couldn't more often be that way. They get so vicious. How sometimes people want the job so much that they'll do anything. I don't mean to be editorializing here, but sometimes I have the impulse to. All right, what type of campaigning will you be doing, Dan, or are you doing already?
Been doing it for several months now. We're going out knocking on doors, introducing myself, asking them to get out and vote for me. I've gone to a forum already. I've got another forum again tonight up in Denton. I'm doing interviews with Bob Weir. Just whatever I can. I'll be doing a mailer later here in the next couple of weeks as we get closer to early voting.
And so you're doing some door to door.
Oh, absolutely. We've done
That's
probably
great.
over, I believe I've knocked on more than 850 doors as of yesterday.
Wow, and that's a tough job too.
You're a little tired at the end of the day. I think I got a little sun even yesterday.
That'll wear you out. I used to wear my sneakers and wear a suit and sneakers, and by the end of the day, boy, I just needed a hot bath. So I needed a jacuzzi. Okay, so we're coming down to the end here, so I want to mention you have a campaign website, www.rochelleforconstable.com. That's ROCHELLE forconstable.com. Dan, is there anything you'd like to add before we close?
No, simply I'd appreciate you getting out and voting for me. Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming over, Dan, and good luck in the
Absolutely.
election.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for watching.